Hi guys, welcome down to Finch Friday, your weekly golf Q&A. And just before we begin, I want to say that my thoughts are with the people of France and of Nice after the horrible attacks of yesterday. Hopefully everyone watching this will agree and send their thoughts to France in whatever way they can and show that these fascists who hate life can't take away our love of it. And if we stick together and we show that they won't win, then we can beat them back into the shadows. Okay, let's get on to your question. So, Top Cat Smith on Instagram, do you think that if the wind doesn't blow, links courses are pretty much defenseless with today's equipment? If so, what could be done to toughen them up? To be honest, links courses are intertwined with the weather. It's part of the challenge, you know, and the fact that they can change so quickly. If the sun was shining, it was bone dry and the wind was blowing, it would be literally a totally opposite test to what they are facing now. Part of the defence of Troon is the fact that they have small greens and that the wind usually blows in the same direction and blows quite strong. At the moment in time, that's not quite happened, and it's just luck of the draw, and it's just the luck of that weekend for the players. You know, if you take this Open Championship and move it to any other weekend in the year, it could be totally different conditions. But it's what makes links golf great as well, is you never quite know what's going to be happening, and the players can create and they can play different types of shots this week that they wouldn't be able to do in another week when it was bone dry. So I don't really think anything needs to be done to toughen it up. It's just the fact that the course is at the mercy of the weather, and the players are at the mercy of the weather as well. Even though it's soft, if the wind starts gusting at 40 miles an hour tomorrow, they're going to face a totally different challenge. Question from Rennie's the Bomb. Why do you think Phil Mickelson can produce this level of play at the Open and the other majors, but never seems to get over the line at the US Open? It's very tough to say, because obviously the US Open only comes around once a year. He's had a lot of close calls as well. I think maybe if you're looking at reasons why he can't quite get over the line, it's because he wants to win it so much. If that's almost a bit of a negative, so it's almost a slight paralysis when he actually gets there, only Phil really knows. But he may just be one of those things. He's got enough talent to win the US Open. He's got enough talent to win any competition he enters. It's the same as Monty. Why didn't Monty manage to win a major after dominating European golf for so many years, but also being such a great player on the worldwide stage? It's a hard question to answer. Question from Harry Bridge. Finch Friday, is a one iron always the right choice on links courses instead of a driver? No, it all depends on the individual. A one iron can certainly help you control the trajectory, but having said that, the hybrid that I'm using, the Ping G, I can really control the trajectory on that as well. So it's all depending on the individual. If you can play a low lofted iron though, it certainly can help you out in some situations. But you should never give up your driver. Question from Luke_Lawler. Is there any waterproofs out there which provide an easy way of playing in the rain? All have tried, make swinging very difficult. Is there any that you would recommend? In all seriousness, obviously I'm going to say Calvin Green, which are the leading outerwear provider in Europe because their stuff is that good. But the fact is, there's some stuff you could be looking at really. If you have a look at the Galvin jacket, can you see how we've got kind of three distinct colours? So you got the blue, got that black, and you got that black. The fact is, some of those materials within there are stretchy, others are more solid, and it's that type of stuff that actually makes it a lot easier to swing. With waterproofs, obviously you don't really want to be wearing them because you want the weather to be nice, but if you are going to get some waterproofs, just make sure you get some that you can swing in. It's not actually that difficult to get some waterproofs, try them on in the shop, and go out and have a few practice swings. If you're going to buy them, the shop should let you do that. I think Galvin are still top of the tree though as far as waterproofs go. Question from Music Mid-10th. Do you prefer watching the Open played in wind, rain or clear, easy scoring conditions? I think I probably prefer watching it in dry, bouncy, sunny conditions. But then that's the same as all courses. What is your favourite type of golf course? Links or something else? Yeah, links is my favourite course. I quite like Heathland courses as well, but links courses are definitely my favourite. Just the challenge that they represent, and you can get some really, I mean you can get this on any course, but you can get some really magical moments on links courses. Kind of straight away when I think of some of the best memories I've got of golf, it goes back to links courses. Kind of last year when, not last year, of course 2 years ago when me and Rick played up at was it 3 years ago? Maybe 3 years ago when me and Rick played up at Carnoustie. And it was very sunny, it was late at night, there was no wind, there was long shadows across the course. And it was just absolutely beautiful. It was a a special feeling when you're out there on a course like that. And that's what I think links courses provide, just that really special moment and special memories. Should I make adjustments to my swing in bad weather? Ideally, no. I think what a lot of people do, and this is certainly something I'm guilty of, is when the rain comes in, to get very protective with my swing. Sometimes you've just got to try and do the same things again and again and again. The only thing that I would generally change is when it is very windy, just to try and get a bit of a lower ball flight. I might change my angle of attack, but also just swing a little bit smoother to actually take some of the spin off the ball, but generally no. Can you get fitted for golf clubs that you already own? Tempted to get my Aeroburner irons fitted. That's from Adrian Porteous. You can do. The only issue is when you get a cast head, like the Aeroburners are, they have less adjustability. So you can move a Mizuno forged blade iron quite a lot. You can change loft, you can change lie, you can change quite a lot, because the metal that that's made out of is easily bendable. If you try and bend an Aeroburner or a ping cast iron, for example, they have a lot less tolerance, simply because if you bend them too much, because of their cast construction, they will break. That's why it's always better to get custom fit to begin with, rather than getting a set and then fitting it afterwards. Question from Aridon11. Hi Pete, almost, sorry if I got that wrong, but hi Pete, almost 5 AM in Texas, staying up for the Open, good man. Why do you think so many Americans are doing well in this tournament, since a lot of them aren't used to the link style of golf? I think part of it is obviously they're all just great players. That has a big thing to do with it. I mean, if you put a good player on any course, they'll generally do well. There may be a kind of a slight thing where, because the course is wet, they're able to fly it a little bit higher, land it a little bit softer like they would an American style course. But I think it's just good players. Good players on a good course with decent greens, they're going to do well. Question from Dominic.Colston.Stone. Please can you play the guitar that is always next to you? Your beloved public want to hear you. I don't think I'd have a beloved public anymore if they did. Maybe one day. Question from Elias Person _ 2 iron or 5 wood? Very good and very apt this week. So around Troon, for example, it will be 2 iron over 5 wood. But on Augusta, it will be 5 wood over 2 iron. Question from Baba Black Sheep. Any tips on returning to golf after a 3-month holiday from the game? There's a similar question about having a 4-month break. Kind of getting back into it. I mean, I generally have a lesson as a tune-up of your basics, so your grip, your posture, your aim, all those kind of things. And then just get out there and get playing. And the only way you're going to really know where your game's at is by going to play. Generally, after that long of a break, your short game's going to suffer the most because you won't have the same touch around the greens. So that's maybe the first place to start work. A question from Hugh Hamilton. If you're on a budget, is it better to buy a TaylorMade or Titleist driver from a few years back, or buy a cheaper club from this year like Ben Ross? That's a good question, actually, because the Ben Ross are actually a good driver. I don't think they... So this is one of the new Ben Ross drivers, the HTX, and I mean, generally it looks pretty good. I know it performs quite well. Rick's done a bit of a review on these. If you've not seen that, check him out on his channel. What Ben Ross tend to do is take what is kind of popular on the market and almost remake it into their own style. And generally they do a pretty good job. I think if you are looking to get a new driver, but you don't quite have the budget to stretch to one of the top brands, using a little bit of nous, shopping from drivers a couple of years ago is a good way to go. But if you do get something like a Ben Ross, I don't think it's going to let you down. If you had to choose one course to play the Open on if you qualify, which course would it be? Well, that's an interesting question. I think Birkdale, because that's next year. Question from Josh Bridgman. Do you prefer carrying your clubs or using a trolley? And would you recommend amateurs spending more money on an electric trolley? I prefer to carry, I think, just simply because I've never really had an electric trolley. I've just kind of taken delivery of a power caddy, which I'm going to review quite soon. But I think as I get a little bit older, as I continue to film more and more, I think an electric trolley is going to be needed. But I just quite like the idea of throwing my clubs in the back of the car with a carry bag, getting onto the course, and then carrying my clubs around. It is what I've always done, and it's certainly something which in the UK a lot of people have done as well. So maybe out of habit I still prefer to carry, but I will be using a trolley certainly going forward a lot more, I think. Question from Christopher Goodyear. Interested to know why you have gone with the Kuchar style putter after your sessions with Andy Gorman. Did you recommend that as an option? No, I kind of got that delivered through. I was intrigued by it and I've been quite pleased with the results. But the thing is, when I get people on the channel to do videos with, I'm confident that they're going to be delivering very, very good advice, which if you follow, you should improve. But would Kuchar change his style, for example? I know Keegan Bradley's actually just started to put with that arm lock putter as well. And when you look at the PGA Tour and the top pros all throughout the world, you'll see so many different types of putting style. The thing is, what I want to do with this channel, what I want to do with my own game, is I want to try new things. I want to see what is out there so I can relay that information back to you as well. This channel and my whole coaching philosophy is the fact that I do not know everything about the swing and about everything about the game. No one does. But the more I research, the more I try things, the better my knowledge will become. There's a couple of questions here on equipment that the actual pros use. Here's one of them. Hi Pete, some people say that Tour Pros clubs are somewhat de-lofted. Do you agree? And I can't quite find the question here on Twitter. I'm sure I saw it and didn't make it up. But anyway, it was saying what the difference is between tour clubs that the tour players use and the clubs that everyday golfers use. Nothing to begin with. Nothing to begin with. So if you were to go out and get a, I don't know, a Vokey wedge, for example, Titleist Vokey wedge, and you pick that up from the shop, rest assured that that club that you pick out of the shelf from the shop, let's say it's a 50-60 degree S-grind wedge or whatever, 50-60 degree S-grind wedge. You pick that out of the shop, that is exactly the same S-grind wedge that players will get in their hands on tour. However, what the players then tend to do is take their wedge, take it to the tour trucks and say, can I try this? Can I try that? So maybe put a slightly different grind on it, add slightly different bounce options, get it stamped, get the grooves redone, stuff like that. It's the top tour players tend to just kind of hone their clubs and tweak their clubs a lot more than the average player would because they've got access to the tour vans and all that equipment. So it's not that the clubs that they're getting are different than the ones that you're getting. Kind of far from it. It certainly used to be that way. So I think everyone knew that the early Nike clubs, for example, the ones that Tiger was using when he first signed, they weren't necessarily the ones that you were getting in the shops. You know, they were slightly more of a tour edition, which basically meant they were building into his specifications what he wanted. But that's really not the case anymore because club manufacturing and club equipment has come so far that they simply don't need to do that anymore. As far as the lofts on the irons go, generally it's the other way. I've often seen players' clubs where their lofts are actually weaker than the clubs that are out to the mass market, because what manufacturers tend to do when they bring clubs out, let's say irons is a relatively good example, so we'll stick to that. An iron loft on an M2 iron, for example, the new M2 iron, is drastically reduced from what players using a PSI Tour iron would be using on tour. It's a lot different because what manufacturers want to say is this is the furthest iron, for example, and the M2 certainly is long, launch is high, just not that much spin. But the manufacturers say, well, this is your longest iron you've ever hit. Tour pros don't care about that. They want control and they want to know what their lofts are precisely. And generally, the lofts on tour player irons are higher than what they are on normal player irons. Not across the range, but again, it's just that custom fitting, that tweaking that the top players go through. Last question here on Twitter from Peter Rodriguez. Simple question. What does the Open Championship mean to you? I mean, at the moment, the Open Championship is a goal. It's probably the best way of describing it, but it's certainly probably my most favourite major to watch, just simply because I know it's taking place on these shores. I know that it's, you know, within reach if I want to go watch, and it provides the most different tests that a golfer can face. I think with Augusta, for example, which I love to watch the Masters, it's brilliant, but you kind of know what the players are going to face every year. It's the same, and that's what almost makes it intriguing, because you know the holes, you know what the players are going to be faced with. When you get to somewhere like Troon, like the Open is today, you might get a totally different test tomorrow than you do today. It might be totally different holes depending on the wind and the rain and the conditions. So that's why I love the Open. It's a great tournament. Right guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on other social media platforms as well. If you want to ask questions, that's where you need to follow me, because I kind of post questions Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So if you want yours answering, then subscribe. Already said that, but follow the links in the description below to Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and enjoy the Open.